Welcome to the Riskwiser Zone, the podcast where we dive into the world of stocks and finance to help you make informed decisions about your investments. I'm your host, Lewis, and I'm excited to share today's top story with you. We're starting off with a big one. The ongoing tariff dispute between India and the United States has just taken a dramatic turn. Former U.S. President Donald Trump has approved legislation that would authorize the imposition of a 500% tariff on countries importing Russian oil, a move aimed at curbing Moscow's energy revenues, but with potentially devastating collateral damage for India. Now, let's break it down. India has substantially increased imports of discounted Russian crude since the Ukraine conflict began. If enacted, this tariff could sharply raise the cost of Indian exports to the U.S., undermining trade competitiveness and adding pressure to an already fragile global economic environment. The impact could extend beyond trade disruptions to broader macroeconomic implications, including slower economic growth and higher energy costs that could strain inflation management. But here's the thing. The Supreme Court is set to rule on Trump's tariffs tonight, and the decision will either validate months of trade uncertainty or blow open the door for a dramatic reversal. Indian markets are positioned squarely in the crosshairs, with analysts warning of potential double whammy, existing 50% duties plus the new 500% threat. Now, some strategists see this as a buying opportunity, particularly in segments like financials, consumer discretionary, and industrials that have corrected due to macro overhangs rather than fundamental deterioration. But others are more cautious, pointing out that government interventions to manage supply and demand could influence liquidity conditions and push yields higher. As we wait for the Supreme Court's decision, one thing is clear: the stakes are high, and the outcome will have far-reaching implications for investors around the world. We'll be keeping a close eye on this story and bringing you updates as more information becomes available. We'll be right back with more from the world of stocks and finance on the Riskwiser Zone. Welcome back to the Riskwiser Zone. We're diving into a crucial topic that affects us all: personal finance and budgeting. A recent report highlights the importance of understanding where our money is going and making intentional decisions about our spending habits. Financial experts emphasize the need to track our income and expenses, identifying areas where we can cut back on unnecessary costs. Subscriptions, travel, and lifestyle choices are common areas where people tend to overspend. By being more mindful of these expenditures, individuals can find ways to save $10.20 per month, which may not seem like a lot but can add up significantly over time. Becky Western McFadyen, a financial coach, suggests that deleting apps like food delivery services or reviewing wireless plans can help reduce unnecessary spending. Moreover, having a small safety net for emergencies can also help avoid taking on debt in the future. It's essential to approach budgeting with a realistic perspective, acknowledging that sometimes there may not be room for significant cutbacks. In such cases, understanding one's cash flow and making sustainable changes is key. By adopting a more intentional approach to personal finance, individuals can make informed decisions about their spending habits, ultimately leading to greater financial stability and security. Welcome back to the Riskwiser Zone. As we wrap up today's show, let's take a closer look at a developing story that's been making headlines around the world. Protests have been escalating in Iran, driven by widespread dissatisfaction with the country's economic crisis, including soaring inflation and a plunging currency. The situation has taken a turn with the involvement of Reza Pahlavi, the son of Iran's last monarch, who has called for nationwide demonstrations against the current regime. Pahlavi, who has lived in exile since the 1979 Islamic Revolution, has emerged as a vocal critic of the Islamic Republic and has urged Iranians to reject the current government. His intervention has sparked chants invoking the Pahlavi dynasty, with some protesters openly calling for the return of the monarchy. However, it's essential to note that the movement remains largely decentralized, and it's unclear whether Pahlavi's appeal will resonate with ordinary Iranians. The international community is watching the situation closely, with President Donald Trump publicly backing Iranian protesters and warning Tehran of consequences if the crackdown intensifies. As the protests continue into their second week, the coming days will be crucial in testing both the protesters' endurance and the government's willingness to tolerate dissent. It's a complex and sensitive situation, and we must consider multiple perspectives before forming an opinion. The economic crisis in Iran is a significant concern, and the people's frustration with the government is understandable. However, it's also important to recognize the country's rich history and the nuances of its political landscape. As investors, it's essential to stay informed about global events and their potential impact on the markets. The situation in Iran serves as a reminder of the importance of diversification and the need to be prepared for unexpected developments. That's all for today's Riskwiser Zone. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, keep your finances in check.